Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That is correct, Mr. Chair. I believe it's the A2.
Please, you begin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members. Senate File 2044 as amended was brought to me by Minnesota State on behalf of Lake Superior College relating to a very significant issue regarding PFAS chemicals and contamination at the Emergency Response Training Center. The LSC Emergency Response Training Center trains approximately 3,500 participants from Minnesota and surrounding states in a variety of safety and security fields and has been a real community asset for 3 decades. In your materials, there is background information provided by Lake Superior College that shows the scope of the important training that takes place at this site and the steps Minnesota State and Lake Superior College have taken together as a cooperative responsible party with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Joining me today is Dr. Pat Rogers, the president of LSC, and Vice Chancellor Brian Swanson from Minnesota State. President Rogers is retiring from LSC in a few months, and I want to publicly thank her for her service and for her leadership in trying to address this issue, which has put financial stress on LSC's budget. I want to stress the importance of this funding. The college is facing a major environmental remediation effort that is not optional. This funding will help advance the next phase of the required environmental investigations. I am pleased with the cooperation of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, Minnesota State, and Lake Superior College, as everyone has the same goal of cleaning up this site and serving our community. I would now like to turn the testimony over to President Rogers, then to Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Patricia Rogers, and I serve as the president of Lake Superior College in Duluth. First, I want to thank Senator McEwen and Senator Rarick for authoring this bill to assist the college with its ongoing efforts to address PFAS contamination at our Emergency Response Training Center located close to the St. Louis River. The 100-acre Emergency Response Center, or ERTC, was originally created in the early 1990s to train firefighters and emergency response teams in Minnesota and several surrounding states. It was built with U.S. Congressional and Federal Aviation Administration support, with the FAA providing both financial support and design expertise. It was commissioned in 1994 and operated by Duluth Public Schools' Duluth Technical College, which later became Lake Superior College in 1995. Lake Superior College no longer simulates aircraft fires, but the facility remains an important training facility. Besides workforce training for our college students, the ERTC is a cost-effective site for required ongoing training for the men and women at state and federal entities, such as Homeland Security and the FBI, as well as fire and police departments throughout Minnesota. Perishable skills are polished each year by dozens of businesses, ranging from small private security firms to corporations like Enbridge, who contract for specialized training because of our flexible and unique amenities. Between 2,000 to 3,000, sometimes even more than that, students and non-students practice these hands-on skills each year at the ERTC. The challenge we face is that for almost 20 years, training on aircraft rescue and firefighting was done using aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, an effective fire suppressant for flammable liquid fires. Since the 1960s, AFFF foam included per- and polyfluoroalkyl compounds, or PFAS, often referred to as forever chemicals. Between 1994 and 2014, various AFFF foams were used according to industry standards in dozens of annual ERTC training exercises. A central feature of the ERTC and the most heavily contaminated area is the 7-acre burn pit, originally used for training on aircraft rescue and firefighting. Since 2014, only water has been used for firefighting training at the burn pit. We no longer simulate aircraft fires, just structural fires using customized shipping containers in modular configurations. The burn pit is also used as a truck driving course and for emergency medical simulations. Cleaning up a problem of this magnitude, that is the remediation, will likely cost many millions of dollars. The college has funded the required investigation and mitigation work to date. However, LSC's tight budget cannot sustain this past year's level of spending. For today, we need your support to address the costs of the required short-term investigations and data collection necessary to develop the long-term remediation plans. We greatly appreciate the support of our local legislators on both sides of the aisle and our close community partners like the regional fire departments, businesses and industries, as well as members of this committee. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Associate Vice Chancellor for Facilities, Brian Swanson, to speak briefly about what we know and what steps we are taking to address the situation.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Welcome, Mr. Swanson. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about the issue at Lake Superior College's ERTC. For the record, my name is Brian Swanson. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Facilities with Minnesota State Colleges and University System Office. I'm here to provide the committee with more information on the investigation process that LSC has undertaken to date and to share what we know and don't know about future actions. From 1994 until 2014, the ERTC used PFAS-containing foam as required per industry and certification standards. Firefighting foam was known to contain PFAS, so the LSC site has long been on the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's watch list of contaminated sites. The MPCA conducted a number of sediment and water studies around the site over the years. In 2023, the MPCA invited Lake Superior College to enroll in its remediation program as a cooperating responsible party. As a responsible party to identified PFAS contamination, LSC is required to investigate the site, investigate conditions off-site, and to stop PFAS-impacted water from leaving the site. Lake Superior College, working with the Minnesota State System Office staff, engaged Bar Engineering, a very experienced and well-respected Minnesota environmental engineering firm, to assist with these efforts. What we are facing here is clearly beyond the scope of what we normally deal with on our college and university campuses. Since 2023, the college has been working closely with MPCA on the appropriate way to investigate the scale of the contamination and to begin planning for the eventual remediation of the issue. To date, LSC has funded BAR to prepare an investigation work plan and to implement the initial investigation. This preliminary work cost the college almost $800,000. Just this month, LSC received comments from the MPCA on its initial investigation summary report. Concurrently with this report, the standards for PFAS in the soil, known as the soil reference value, became even more restrictive. The MPCA is now requesting additional and more comprehensive testing by LSC and potentially even some preliminary site cleanup activities to mitigate impacts while a more comprehensive response is developed. The LSC BAR team is still digesting the feedback from the MPCA we received last week. We are looking at what could be several $1 million of additional investigation and response action planning work before we even get to the major expense, which is the comprehensive cleanup and ongoing monitoring. Because PFAS rules are still being developed and regularly change, it's impossible to accurately estimate the cost of performing all these activities, which are anticipated to take years to decades to complete. Regardless of whether the ERTC remains open or whether it closes, the college remains responsible for completing the investigation activities and implementing the required actions. These activities need short-term funding for investigations such as monitoring wells and soil and water samples, which the bill before you will help address. In the near future, LSC will need significant long-term funding for possible remediation activities, including excavating and disposing PFAS soil from certain areas of the 100-acre site, capping the 7-acre fire training burn pit, and permanent water treatment. Ongoing environmental monitoring will continue even after the soils are removed and remediation activities are complete to validate that remediation efforts were sufficient. The money this bill puts towards this effort is needed, and we are very appreciative of all your efforts to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Swanson. Are there any questions from our members? Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few quick ones. It looks like the amendment was a delete all, and we sort of changed our approach. Can somebody tell me, it looks like we went from originally asking for about $1 million to switching it up to $500,000. Obviously, you know, the state's financial situation, I'm sure, played a role there. Is this going to be some sort of a phased approach, maybe asking for some now to do some things and then likely coming back in the future to do a total remediation?
Senator McEwen, I can also call up Mr. Ullman as well.
If you would, thank you. I can offer a couple of words, but it would be great to have some additional information. But thank you for that question, Senator Duckworth. Yes, I think that you hit the nail on the head with a couple of the comments that you made. We're just trying the best that we can to help our local community college deal with this. And so we have been looking across the budgets and the possibilities of different funding. And we're talking to people at the federal level as well. As you heard some of the testimony, this long term, unfortunately, this is sort of something that I think we see all too often, which is that we have environmental damage done by corporations who leave the public with the bill of cleaning up that enormous damage that will last years and years into the future. So we're stuck footing this bill. Maybe in the future, there will be more lawsuits filed against the manufacturers of some of these compounds who knew about the dangers years before letting the public know about them. But until then, it will, as always, that corporate malfeasance, until it's taken care of systemically, falls on all of us as Minnesotans to clean up. So we are looking where we can to try to help our local community college so that they won't be just burdened. There were huge hits to their budget to take care of this remediation.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Mr. Ullman.
Chair Fateh and Senator Duckworth, I think the answer is we're going to be in this for the long haul, and the $500,000 just happened to be reflective of some work and money that we asked to have turned back from last session. And Senator McEwen does a great job organizing folks in the region to show that the need for this, but also, please know, we're also pressing our case with the federal delegation. There was a meeting last week with Congressman Stauber, and originally these funds, a number of it came from former Congressman Oberstar. So we're going to have to press our case both here and in the environmental community. And to those of you that have known me, I've whined to many of you about when campuses come and want a specific program funded. And my response is always, that's part of the funding that you give us, and we expect that to happen at the campus. This is a different deal. This is not an additive deal. This is trying to protect some of the programs that the campuses are offering, and that's how we're going to look at it going forward as well.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Duckworth.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Another question, this might not be for any of the testifiers, and if somebody knows the answer offhand, great. If not, no big deal. And I appreciate the effort to, if we're going to appropriate additional funds, finding a way to try to offset it. I can see a cancellation funding for another program here. I'm just curious if those funds specific to kids on campus, is the $500,000 all that was allocated to that program? Is there still money left over, even if you were to cancel the $500 for that program, or does that kind of zero it out?
Mr. Ullman, and please provide your name and title for the record.
I'm sorry,
No.
Bernie Owen with Minnesota State Colleges. Chair Fateh and Senator Duckworth, the $500,000 was appropriated last year, and internally we did our due diligence to find out if that model would work. And while we did spend a significant amount of staff time looking at that, our folks came to the conclusion of, we don't think this works, and they came to us and said, do you think we could turn this back? What would it look like? Should we hire a consultant to further look at it? And we asked, we had a very broad conversation with campuses and come to the conclusion that that's not a model that they would pursue. So we didn't access any of that money, so that entire $500,000 is available.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, I appreciate that. It's helpful. We're not necessarily talking about a new appropriation. We're talking about a shift here. And that's more than responsible for you all to kind of come and say, hey, we've already got a solution. We just need you to approve it. So I appreciate that. The only other thing I would add, Mr. Chair, is I know that we're still awaiting targets, and I don't know what MPCA's budget looks like, but maybe they could be a source of funding too if we're trying to preserve higher education's funds for other things as well. So just food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth. Any other members with questions? Seeing none, any final comments? Senator McEwen?
Just want to thank you, Mr. Chair, and members for hearing this ask, and appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And with that, Senate File 2044 is laid over.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Senate File 1074. Welcome, Senator Klein. I understand you have the A1 Authors Amendment.
I do.
Awesome. Senator Putnam moves the A1 amendment. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The amendment is adopted. Senator Klein.
Chair and committee, thank you so much for having me present Senate File 1074, a bill which came to me from a constituent with a good story to tell, and he'll tell it in just a minute here. This bill essentially covers 100% of in-state tuition for college students who are the children of 100% disabled veterans. 7 other states in the country already do this, including our close neighbor, Wisconsin. I'll just quickly walk through the bill. Subdivision 1 sets the eligibility requirements. To qualify for the program, a person must be a resident student. They must be enrolled in an undergraduate degree at the University of Minnesota or in the Minnesota system. They must complete the FAFSA, and they must be a dependent child of a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces who has a total and permanent disability. Subdivision 2 provides that the student eligible will receive a financial award that covers 100% of tuition fees and books, after accounting for other financial aid and scholarships that they receive. Paragraph B clarifies that the award under the section is in addition to, not in lieu of, an award under the state grant program. And also paragraph C requires that this eligible student also apply for any other available education benefits that are present for them. The A1 was an effort to sort of trim the scope of this bill. You will see a fiscal note in front of you, which is, I'm sure, more than what your target is going to be. But in any case, A1 is not reflected in the fiscal note here, and it really significantly narrows the scope of who would be beneficiaries of this bill. And with that, Mr. Chair, I have a testifier.
Thank you. Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, dear Chairman. My name is Alan Garski. I'm a 20-year Navy veteran, and I have met some of you all in the panel here. I'm very grateful for that. I am 100% disabled, and let's see here. And how can I put this? I get a little stage fright. Sorry about that. So,
No worries. Take your time.
one of the things I had come up with is this should be a standalone bill for disabled veterans at 100%. And as a veteran, at 100%, I'm at a fixed income. Most 100% are. If they're not getting 100% paid from the VA, or if they're getting retirement from the military, if they're retired, it's very minuscule. And this bill here that we're introducing is very small comparison to a lot of educational bills. And like Senator Klein would say, there's 7 other states, including our neighbor Wisconsin and Florida and a few others, that has the same bill or equivalent to. Let's see here. I don't know about, I hadn't heard about the fiscal note. That might be a little too high for what this bill is, because I mean, there's only a little bit of, for amount of veterans that are probably would be qualified for this. Probably 1/5, or not even 1/5, maybe 1/4 that may have school-age children for this bill. So, and also like to point out that not Senator Clarney, but Representative Clarney on the representative side also has a bill, House Bill 982, that has already gone into this bill. So it's the marrying of this bill here. So, let's see. And that's all I basically got to think that I am 100%. And I would appreciate with this body here that if make this bill come true for us 100% disabled American veterans. I would appreciate that very much. And that's about all I got to say. I thank you again, and thank you for opening up your offices to me and to my wife for talking about this bill here. And that's about all I got to say, and God bless. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Garsky.
Any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Appreciate you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Garsky. Are there any questions from members? Senator Utke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And a question for Senator Klein. Being this amendment adjusts the exposure, so to speak, of the bill, how do you expect that to reflect in the fiscal note that we've got? Because, there's some things I see right away. The fact that they are asking for an FTE in some of these, it's like, to me, this application would go in right along with a lot of the other student grant apps and everything else they do. We shouldn't need some of these things that are reflective. What do you foresee with the new language? How will it adjust our costs?
Senator Klein?
Mr. Chair and Senator Utke, thank you for the question. I think initially it would cover people even with 70% disability ratings and higher. We've narrowed that significantly to people simply with 100% disability. We've also included the provisions that they have to reach out to other potential sources of revenue. So I hate to speculate on what you'll get from a fiscal note because it always seems to be bad news. But I have to believe, the real cost to the state is just a tiny fraction of what's reflected in this $6 million. And I'm hopeful that we'll have a revised fiscal note for this committee before you go to build your omnibus fiscal bill.
Senator Utke?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Klein, we could all take advice from your testifier, and we'll send this to the floor and we'll figure it out later, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Kupec?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Klein, for the bill, and Mr. Garsky, who I met with, you and your wife, and talked about this. I think this is the thing we have to remember is that when people serve their country, it's not only them that serve their country, it's their family. And certainly when somebody comes home after serving their country and then has a disability, that also has an impact on their family members and the impact on them financially in some cases and the ability for them to pay for college for their kids. So I appreciate the bill and the testimony from Mr. Garsky. So hopefully this is, we can find a path for this.
Thank you so much, Senator Kupec. Senator Duckworth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I share the sentiment of both gentlemen up there that especially with the revision or the amendment, that maybe the estimate is a little bit high. I don't mean to be overly critical, but I would suggest let's take a look at the number of veterans in Minnesota that have the 100% rating. It's not as many as you would think, because getting that 100% rating is pretty difficult. And then I would also look at their age demographics to get to the point that was made earlier of how many of these veterans that have a 100% disability rating have dependents that are likely going to pursue college. Not that age necessarily matters, but it's a pretty good indication. That might help us tighten up some numbers and find that it's actually more reasonable or realistic. The only other suggestion I would offer for you, Senator Klein, as it pertains to this bill is right now, the way that it's worded, unless I'm interpreting it incorrectly, is that the dependent would have to go to a state college or university. I've got nothing against state colleges or universities. I was commissioned through the University of Minnesota's Army ROTC program. But I did that while attending the University of St. Thomas. And what the Minnesota National Guard's approach to scholarship or tuition help was this. You go to a private school, we understand that sometimes those cost more than state schools. We get that, and we're not looking to play that game. So what we'll do is, we will award you a scholarship, but we cap that amount at the highest tuition at a state school, which is typically the University of Minnesota's Twin Cities campus. So I would maybe recommend that you look at this and say, hey, we're gonna allow that dependent of that veteran to attend whatever school in Minnesota is best for them, because it could be a geographic reason, it could be a certain educational programming reason why they would choose a school other than a state school. But to strike that balance of fairness, we're saying, but the most we're gonna help you in that case is the most we would pay if you were to go to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities or whichever public school has that kind of the highest tuition rate. So that's the only other feedback I have for you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth. Are there any other committee members with comments or questions? Seeing none, any final comments, Senator Klein?
Thank you, Chair. I'm so grateful for the hearing. The Garski family is extremely grateful for this committee's time. I appreciate the suggestions from Senator Duckworth. I would be very grateful if you would consider joining us on this bill to make it bipartisan. Thank my co-author, Senator Kupec, who's with me, and I want to thank Sam Parmecker for helping me craft the amendment.
Awesome, thank you. And with that, Senate File 1074 is laid over. Next up is Senate File 2401, Senator Putnam.
I'm going to steal your notes. That's okay. Yes, please do.
Welcome, please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Senator Eric Putnam. It's nice to meet you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Senate File 2401, and it deals with a population in the academic workforce which we don't spend a lot of time talking about. And that's the adjunct or contingent faculty, those people who are working on degrees, working through degrees, or who's living lives and are unable or unwilling to have a full-time tenure-track job, or perhaps they're in a certain geographic area where they want to stay close to their family and they can't move to some other metropolitan area where there would be a tenure-track position. These are the people who are teaching so many of the students in our universities and colleges around the state. And there are people who are struggling deeply. I think last year we had a conversation about the state of contingent faculty in our state. And it should have moved you at that moment, and here's another opportunity. Today we want to talk about health insurance for contingent faculty. So contingent faculty are eligible for partial employer-sponsored health insurance coverage if they teach at least 9 credits in a year, and full coverage if they teach 12 credits. However, there are 2 significant problems with this. First, community faculty and adjuncts, contingent faculty and adjuncts cannot teach more than 12 credits, and because the insurance threshold is based on credits per year, many contingent faculty don't hit that threshold until spring semester, leaving them uncovered for fall semester. And one other issue that I think we might hear about a little bit today is that oftentimes those credit totals are shifted or changed at the very last minute before the semester begins. So someone could believe or hope or expect that they're going to have health insurance and then lose it 2 days before the semester begins. Some campuses try to keep contingent faculty just under the eligibility threshold just to save money. So a troubling example involved a faculty member who was given 11.9 credits in a year, just under the 12 credit threshold. Her .01 credit was technically given to a colleague. And members, as a faculty member, I have no idea what .01 credit would be. I don't know if that's just taking attendance and walking out the door or what, but what is 1/10 of doing this job? That's hard to actually even comprehend. And yet that's something that's happening in order to make sure that folks don't get the health insurance that they need. Now, Mr. Chair and members, I can't describe this situation any better than my friend Faith can. So I'd like to turn it over to our testifiers, if we may, please.
Thank you, Senator. Ms. Erickson, welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Do you want me to go first? Okay. Hi, my name is Faith Erickson. Thank you, Chair Fatah. Thank you, Ranking Member Duckworth. and all the members of the committee, and Senator Putnam, of course. My name's Faith Erickson. I've been an adjunct at St. Cloud State University for the past 17 years, a temporary part-time instructor at St. Cloud Technical and Community College for the last 16 years. That's a long time spent worrying from semester to semester about whether I'll have a job or insurance for the next 6 months. The job might be there, you'll get something, but will it be enough to qualify for insurance? Sometimes you win the lottery like I have right now and you get a good dean, one who does his best to make sure as many people as possible get covered, but not everyone can. But I've had 7 deans during my time at St. Cloud Tech, and every single time I've had to start from scratch. Even at year 14, I was walking in the door, introducing myself like I was a brand new employee, like it was a job interview, and I'm terrible at job interviews. With 7 deans and 16 years, none of them knowing who I am, I've had no protection. At year 15, a new dean told me he thought it was most fair to give every contingent faculty the same amount of courses. That's 2 courses per faculty, no matter how long they'd been there, even if they started right before he started, even if it was just 2 days before he started. I told him if he knew that meant that no one would be covered for insurance. He said he did, but he thought that was the most fair way to go. And I know I'm not alone in this because I'm on the contingent appointment committee for IFO, and I'm the chair of the temporary faculty committee for MSCF, and I hear stories like this all the time. I hope to be joined by more of my contingent faculty colleagues, but their lives are full teaching, running from college to college, over-committing at their colleges because they care about students in colleges, and honestly, because they're trying to prove their worth to the colleges so that they get enough classes in the fall to qualify for insurance. And some of them may be afraid to speak out because they have no protection either. So I'll share a few of their stories. One instructor told me about his technical program. There are 1 or 2 full-time faculty, but the most are contingent. And it's hard to keep it, It's hard to ask people to do the recruiting, the assessment, the things that are needed to keep a technical program working if they're treated like they're temporary. The same instructor was described as exceptional. In fact, the only one who was qualified to keep the program running, but he almost quit because he didn't have insurance and he was afraid he'd have to pay the $30,000 he needed to pay for his wife's surgery out of pocket. Another instructor chose to get married even though she wasn't sure she wanted to secure insurance. A new father said his course was dropped at the last minute. His course was full, but a full-time instructor's wasn't, and so the course was taken away from him. So instead of having to pay $39 a month for insurance, it jumped to $416 a month, on top of a lower salary with a newborn at home. He cold called every dean he could, trying to pick up more classes. This is extremely uncomfortable because a contingent faculty needs to keep a good reputation in order to get a course, but it was too late because his course was dropped at the very last minute. He said he felt like a failure to his family and he didn't know how long he could continue doing this. As Senator Putnam said, a community faculty at Metro State, where they rely on 70% of their faculty being contingent, told me that administrators instructed deans to keep their faculty under 12 credits. So she was given not just 11.99 credits. There's no such thing as 0.99 credits. So that's about 12 minutes of course time. Another faculty member told me this story through tears. She's a single parent of 3 children, adopted children, all with mental health challenges due to their prenatal exposure and early trauma. Getting approval for mental health insurance is already hard. She was grateful to have succeeded until she lost her insurance just after getting approval to keep her 9-year-old in inpatient residential treatment center. Her child had become violent. She worked with therapists and social workers trying to figure out what she could do, but she said, "I couldn't stop sobbing and shaking as I thought about my child coming home without the help he needed. The stress impacted my ability to do my job, to take care of my children, and to care for myself. I live in constant fear of losing access to the support my kids needs. That fear never leaves." Early in my career in 2010, I was asked to take over a class mid-semester, and I said yes because I'll say yes to teach any course. because it means, insurance coverage and just enough to save money, so just in case I don't have enough classes the next semester. And I didn't know why, but I found out shortly that the teacher was dying of cancer and she wanted to teach until she couldn't teach anymore so that she had insurance coverage and wouldn't have to leave her kids with the cost of her treatment. And I remember thinking recently that no matter how much I love teaching, I wouldn't want to spend the last few months or weeks of my life teaching an online composition class so that my kids wouldn't have to pay the insurance cost. And I know we like to think that that's a 2010 problem, but just recently another faculty member told me she lost a colleague to cancer. That colleague had only one goal in her final year: keep 6 credits, just enough to maintain her insurance at 50% cost, not 100% cost, to pay for her treatment. As a single person working herself, she couldn't take time off and keep her insurance. She worked through December 2024. She died this January 15th. Too often, we make just enough to be disqualified from MNsure or other assistance, but not enough to actually qualify for health insurance. I've spent a lot of time talking with representatives from California and Oregon, where legislation like this has successfully passed. In both cases, the projected costs ultimately proved to be far higher than the actual ones. Many contingent faculty had other coverage or didn't need full family plans. Just yesterday, the representative I talked to a lot from Oregon told me, because of our legislation, hundreds and hundreds of contingent faculty have been able to obtain insurance who otherwise would not have it. This is literally life-saving, especially as federal attacks on Medicaid and Medicare continue. This is a tough thing that everyone is doing because it's the right thing. We rely on contingent faculty for their dedication and passion. They stay in this work decades despite uncertainty, and that's not hyperbole. Calling contingent faculty temporary is a poor description. I only have the numbers for MSCF, but 15% of contingent faculty have taught consistently, without break, in Minnesota State for 20 years or longer. 40% for 10 years or more, over half for 7%. And we have over 3,000 contingent faculty in our Min State system. They have dedicated their lives to enriching students and strengthening our college. They do this because they love teaching and they are good at their jobs, otherwise they wouldn't be around consistently for so long. But this constant instability takes their toll in every way. The mental toll of never knowing what's coming, never even been offered the illusion of stability, the physical toll of sometimes literally avoiding doctor's visits because they either don't want to pay too much for them or because they can't get the surgeries they need, because we all know doctors schedule these surgeries months and months out, and who knows if they're going to have insurance. I have more stories of this, but I'll spare you for now. But I will say with conviction, insurance instability for contingent faculty robs our students of fully present, healthy teachers. We are thankfully sending more Minnesota students to our college and universities, and like with the last bill, I hope we're sending more and more. But we need to make sure that the physical and mental health of our instructors we place before these students who deserve to be at our colleges, but our instructors deserve to be healthy and mentally taken care of, physically and mentally taken care of. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Erickson, for sharing your story and your testimony. Mr. Bowen, welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jonathan Bowen, I represent the Interfaculty Organization. We have approximately 4,000 members, faculty, coaches, and counselors at the 7 Min-State universities. About 1,800 of those 4,000 people are contingent faculty, to give you an idea of how many are out there. As campus budget crises have continued over the last couple decades, campuses have been forced to help balance budgets by using contingent faculty. They're less expensive. They qualify for fewer benefits. So not to fault any of our leadership at campuses or at the system office, it's just a tool that they've used to help balance budgets. The goal of this bill is really simple. It's to expand eligibility for our adjunct faculty. The goal is not to, I think in the fiscal note, there's like 2,500 people that would be impacted or would end up qualifying. Not all 2,500 of those people will accept this coverage. The goal is not to get the faculty member who teaches, a class in the spring and a class in the fall, but has a full-time job to switch their health insurance. And I think it would actually be cost prohibitive based on the reimbursement amount that the state would offer. The goal is to find the faculty members who are piecing together a career. It's not uncommon early in a faculty member's career to teach at multiple institutions as an adjunct until you find a tenure position, a tenure track position. And so it's really to help our faculty who are in that situation access healthcare while they're bouncing around and piecing together their career. So with that respect, I'd like to address the very humble price tag that's in front of you. So we designed this as a pilot program for a reason. As you heard from Faith, California and Oregon did this. Of course, the system had to cost it this way because everyone who's eligible, they have to assume that everyone will take that. And the reality is, and what we've seen in other states, is that it just doesn't happen for a variety of reasons. Whether they have a full-time job they get health care from, they have it access through a spouse or some other family member. It's just simply a fact that not all of them will take it. So the goal in doing a pilot program is to find out what the actual costs will be over these next couple of years and then determine how to move forward. Ideally, this would be dealt with in bargaining. And just to give you an idea of why we're here and not at the bargaining table talking about this issue, the cost at the bargaining table is over $40 million a year. Our last contract that we negotiated increased spending by $30 million for state university faculty. That was our largest contract ever. So that makes this issue incompatible with bargaining because of the extreme costs. So what we're here today is asking for some help to find out what the real costs would be, and then perhaps deal with it at the bargaining table if the cost is low enough, or come back here and ask for ongoing funding for something that's important to our faculty and students. So one other thing too about the fiscal note, we have 6 credits in this bill. 6 credits is where they qualify for pension benefits. It also helps with, right now that you qualify for health insurance at 12 credits, but you're not gonna hit that 12 until spring semester. So you get your health insurance in spring semester, you perhaps keep it over the summer, but you lose it again in the fall because the fiscal year starts over again. And so then you have a lapse for that fall semester. And you hope that you'll have enough credits then to get to your 12 or whatever it is for the 2-year schools. So you'll have the health insurance then moving forward in the spring, but you always have that lapse. And so what this bill hopes to do is to close that loophole as well and provide more stable access to insurance, even for those who qualify. So that's what we got.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bowen. Are there any questions from our members? Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Just a quick follow-up on your comment about it being a pilot program, if that's okay. I guess I didn't, unless I'm missing an amendment somewhere, I didn't see anything in here that to me suggested it was a pilot program other than maybe because it's a one-time appropriation. Is that kind of why you're considering it to be a pilot program in your mind?
Mr. Bowen.
Mr. Chair, Senator Duckworth, yes, that's exactly right.
Okay, thank you, if I may, Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Duckworth.
I can appreciate the attempt to start at the 6 or more credits, just to kind of maybe make it a little bit more financially achievable or doable. I guess one of my reactions to that would be is that maybe you're just going to lower that threshold even more at schools in terms of the amount of work they give to people. So that's something to just be mindful of. And then one other thing, were these types of faculty, part-time, contingent, adjunct, were these folks also covered in some of the bills from the last couple of years that increased pay or benefits or unemployment insurance, or were they not included in any of those pieces of legislation?
Mr. Bowen.
Mr. Chair, Senator Duckworth, great question. So the last 5 IFO contracts, contingent faculty are paid a per credit income versus, across the board percentage increase. I think in at least 3 of the last 5 contracts, contingent faculty have received a slightly higher percentage increase to their per credit fee than our across the board increases. That's one way that we've tried to compensate them better. They do not receive unemployment benefits. They were not included in the UI bill that was passed in '23, I believe. They don't, there is a reasonable assurance that they'll come back, but even a reasonable insurance, like Senator Putnam mentioned and Faith mentioned, you can get to the point where you're a day or 2 out from class starting and your class gets pulled for a variety of reasons. It's not full, it needs to go to a full-time faculty member, et cetera. And so there's that much instability is is kind of what breeds the problem.
Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Duckworth.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The only other comment I would make is, you referenced bargaining earlier and a $30 million increase. I mean, I would just say with the $6 billion deficit on the horizon, you might have better luck back at the bargaining table than you will get more money from the state legislature. Just saying. But good to see you, and I appreciate the testimony.
I think Senator Putnam is planning to take it out of the ag budget. Is that correct?
All 6 billion, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Any other questions from members? Seeing none, any final comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just briefly. I taught at Century College for a while I was teaching at the University of Minnesota for a little extra money. And I don't think we really appreciate the situation that a lot of our adjunct and contingent faculty are placed in. I got paid $1,200 a class, which is at or below minimum wage. It's not a comfortable living or a great job. And when you add all the insecurity and uncertainty that my friend Ms. Erickson was talking about, it's a difficult way to live, especially when one of those elements of uncertainty is your actual access to health. It's a really hard job. And the other thing I think that I'd want to underscore, members, is that a lot of the folks who are teaching these classes, a lot of contingent adjunct faculty are the ones who have access to students when they're very beginning college. There's a lot of folks who are teaching the introduction kinds of courses. So they are oftentimes the first face that our young students meet. These are the people we need to help, we need to support. They're struggling. This is an opportunity to do that. Thank you very much for your good questions and your consideration, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for bringing this forward, and thank you to our testifiers for speaking. And with that, Senate File 2401 is laid over. Next up, we got Senate File 2597 from Senator Rarick. Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today we have Senate File 2597 in front of the committee. And, just a little background, I think most everybody is familiar with the FIG program. It is a bill that we did a few years ago under Chair Tomasoni to provide free tuition and assistance for our fosters, knowing that they don't have the same supports that most other kids enjoy. But as we all saw last year, and thankfully we acted, there was a deficiency in the fund that was set aside for the program. And we're staring at that coming at us again. And one of the ways that we're trying to get at preventing this out into the future is by establishing this special revenue account for the program. It doesn't solve everything, but we believe it is one step to trying to make this improvement so that they're not coming back year after year after year hoping to get the funding that we've promised them. So with that, I would turn it over to my testifier.
Thank you. Welcome, and please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Ariana Shimon, and I am the Interim Executive Director at Foster Advocates. Today, I want to talk with you all about the Fostering Independence Grant, also known as FIG, a program that covers the full cost of attendance for eligible fosters in our state. You all have heard powerful stories about FIG over the years, and now you have a more unique proposal to consider today. And that's why FIG is in fact so special that it deserves a special revenue fund. This last legislative session, you all jumped into action when we learned FIG was facing a $5 million budget shortfall. Simply put, FIG did exactly what it set out to do. So many fosters enrolled that the funding ran out. Thanks to you and our advocates out there, we were able to secure that one-time fix and showcase why FIG is unique. There is a deep misunderstanding of what happens to our young people when they enter the foster care system. It's something we do not often have to think about and is often overlooked. When the state intervenes in their life, we make them a promise that they will be safer and they will be better off. And we know that is just not true when we look at the outcomes and the data for this population. Unfortunately, Minnesota fails to provide access to the basic resources they need, such as safe housing and access to a good education. The truth is, as a parent, Minnesota invests so little in fosters' well-being and their futures. I have been incredibly humbled, though, in my role at Foster Advocates, to hear from community partners, colleges, and fosters about how transformative FIG has been for them. But currently, the Office of Higher Education projects we will need $8.1 million total to cover FIG recipients for the next academic year alone. We already know we are short $3.7 million for next year. And if we do not meet that increase this session, we anticipate 45% of current students will be waitlisted. 45%. That is nearly 300 students who the state promised a better future. Unfortunately, what we are up against is a math problem. It's heavy to be here again, 1 year later, facing another shortfall. Our community and staff are already bracing for the difficult conversations that lie ahead. FIG has provided fosters an opportunity for an education and an opportunity to create real stability in their lives. FIG is a true investment. It's the biggest investment that we as a state have made in fosters and their futures. And I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty damn special to me. In this work, it is easy to get caught up in all the failures and the problems with our systems because the positives are not easy to find. But when you're able to find one like FIG, it is critical that we protect it and we see it through. Of all the promises we have broken for fosters as a state, this is one we can find a way to keep. Creating a special revenue fund is really about the completion of work. We hope this is the last step and FIG will be preserved and made whole. We hope we don't all have to keep having these conversations year after year. And we hope after this session, we can finish the job. And we hope you will support Senate File 2597. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak and for your support over the years. We're always a resource to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions from our members? Seeing none, any closing comments, Senator Rarick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just appreciate the hearing and the willingness to continue looking to make sure we can fulfill this promise we've made.
And thank you for bringing this forward. Thank you. With that, Senate File 2597 is laid over. Finally, we got Senate File 2753, Senator Kupec. Welcome.
This feels like a whoopee cushion chair. I was waiting. Senator Duckworth looked like he was going to say something to that.
I think, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have Senate File 2753. This is a cybersecurity offering as an applied doctoral degree authorization provision. Minnesota State brought this proposal to me, which simply adds cybersecurity to the list of programs that can be offered as an applied doctorate. In statute, we have a statement of mission of our two public systems, and several years ago, Minnesota State came to the legislature to be able to deliver applied doctoral programs. The difference between an applied doctorate and a PhD program is applied doctorate focuses on the application of students in the workplace, such as an education, an ed doctorate in education, unlike, say, one where you go and research and maybe then you teach like rhetoric at St. John's. That's very different from that kind of PhD. So 5 of the Minnesota State 7 universities offer applied doctorate, and combined their enrollment is 781 students. Areas of study in which we currently allow is education, business, psychology, physical therapy, and audiology. But cybersecurity is a growing field, and this would be a good place to add another doctorate as opposed to more rhetorical communication professors. And with that, I'd like to bring my testifier in.
Thank you so much. Welcome, President Arthur. Please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Thank you, Chair Fateh. My name is Ginny Arthur, and I serve as the president of Metro State University. I'm so pleased to be here this afternoon to share with you why the applied doctorate authorization makes sense. Metro State has established a very strong program at the undergraduate and graduate level in cybersecurity, and we feel our work is now matured to the point where we can develop and support the applied doctorate. Our cyber programs are recognized by the National Security Agency as a National Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense, a National Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber Operations, one of 22 in the country, and by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence as an Intelligence Community Center of Academic Excellence, one of about 80 in the country. Metro State is also the recipient of numerous grants from the NSA for workforce development, including the Cyber for Heroes program, which supports veterans and first responders in achieving cyber-related certifications, and congressionally directed funding to support entrepreneurial development of cyber business in partnership with the Neighborhood Development Center. You may have read about the cybersecurity clinic we run, where students receive hands-on experience in assisting small businesses, nonprofits, school districts, and rural municipal governments, entities that do not have the resources to develop a cyber defense strategy in improving their cyber profile. So we develop student skills and we help protect our community. At Metro, there are currently 129 students in the bachelor's degree program, 57 enrolled in the master's program in cyber operations, and 537 students enrolled in the undergraduate pre-major, taking a few prerequisites before they're fully admitted to the major. There is a huge workforce need. Nationally, it's estimated there are 460,000 unfilled cybersecurity roles. 5,700 of those are in the state of Minnesota. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, cybersecurity is expected to be one of the fastest growing occupations over the next 10 years, with a 33% projected growth rate. In addition, those currently working in cyber operations need constant upskilling to stay ahead of threat actors. Have you all paid your Easy Pass bill? I hope so. Cybersecurity jobs are well paid, helping to propel graduates into the middle class. It's also an excellent profession for laddering of the credentials. So there are good entry-level jobs available for those with a certificate or associate's degree, but then people can continue on, get their bachelor's degree, master's degree, and doctoral degree, and continue to move their way up the economic ladder. It's well understood that the shortage of doctorally qualified faculty at regional comprehensive universities like Metro State and the other 6 universities in Minnesota State, and at private institutions like St. John's and St. Ben's, is severely impacting the development of a much-needed cyber workforce at the associate, bachelor's, and master's degree level. The National Cybersecurity Strategy still calls for increasing educational opportunities across all levels of post-secondary awards. The applied doctorate can be useful in corporate operational settings as well as in higher ed classrooms. With the funding that the university has from our Applied Research Institute through appropriations and small business innovation research and small business technology transfer grants, we have ample capacity to support applied research for doctoral students. And thanks to the legislature's assistance with the bonding bill last year, we are just now opening an educational secure operations center on campus, so we also have the facilities in place to support the research. No other institution in Minnesota is filling this critical need. So I am hoping that you will please amend the legislation to allow us to offer the applied doctorate in cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Arthur, for your testimony. Are there any questions from our members? Seeing none, any
It costs no
closing,
money. It costs you no money.
any closing comments from Senator Kupec?
No, I think the president laid it out pretty well, and she stole my thunder. I was going to say, it costs no money.
Yes. Thank you, Senator Kupec. With that, Senate File 2753 is laid over. And just for a quick announcement, next week, we'll be calendaring Senate File 47 from Senator Putnam on both days. This will be the basis for our conversations about how to address the difference between program costs and available resources in the state grant program. My promise to members this session has been to have an open conversation about the state grant and invite everyone on the committee to share their ideas. We will need to collaborate to address this challenge, and in that spirit, members will have the opportunity to bring forward their own DE amendments to Senator Putnam's bills next week with their own proposals to adjust the state grant parameters. Each member who submits a DE will have an opportunity to present their amendment and invite testifiers. The Office of Higher Education has provided us with the estimated cost savings to the program based on adjusting different parameters at different increments, and committee staff has sent this around to members with instructions on how to formulate amendments. So please work with our nonpartisan staff to draft amendments and estimate cost savings. And with that, committee is adjourned.